Yesterday, President Trump addressed a large gathering of the Boy Scouts of America, sharing his nationalist-leaning message. You know, I'm always hesitant to make any kind of comparisons to Nazis, but a flashy, cult of personality, celebrity voice, riling up throngs of people, all wearing brown shirts. Well, it didn't resemble a UPS convention. The Trump because you laughed, that threw me off. The Trump Report starts now.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christian Bladt at Christian DMZ, and I'm going to fire everybody if it doesn't stop all the leaks that go on in here. Welcome to the Trump Report at Trump Report ABTV, and yes, indeed, we are starting with the Spice Girls.
I thought this was a mistake.
I did too.
Why would anyone think this was a mistake? Chelsea Galicia at Chelsea Galicia, and Scott Moore at S-Man80.
Hi.
Now, what would be a more fitting musical way to send off our pal Spicy than the Spice Girls? And here I thought it was too on the nose. In fact, the Spice Girls as a selection was a little too highbrow. But, so...
I thought it was leftover from the show before us.
That was like the hold music that you're waiting for the next group to come in.
It's the hold music until we can get to that actual topic. Because when I pick these titles and I start thinking it's clever to have chosen a song, that was the big story before the weekend.
I have a great idea. I hope someone from SNL is watching. Melissa.
They usually do, yeah.
Yeah.
They
Melissa,
do, of course.
Spicy, doing the Spice Girls.
Do you want Melissa as Spicy or Melissa and the real Spicy?
As Spicy, with the real Spicy.
Yeah,
that's
make
great.
Make a appearance.
They could be Spicy Spice.
Yes. Do it for the opening one in September.
Well, let us know what you think in the chat. Jimbo, if you could show us the chat when you have a moment, that would be grand. I guess the big story must be... there's some kind of vote today. I was mostly checked out. No.
Skinny vote.
the skinny vote. Let's get right to the healthcare vote. And it was a scene that was as dramatic as victory as time expired in an NFL preseason game. Everybody's very excited at what they accomplished. The Senate Republicans did indeed vote to advance to the floor debate on their efforts to repeal and replace Obamacare. So they passed the right to talk about it and see what happens, and maybe something else will happen. But even that procedural vote had to have the tiebreaker vote cast by Mike Pence. And I have tremendous respect for John McCain in his career, probably through yesterday. But it's like you're almost, his health, it seemed like it was a pretty serious concern. And if it's not, great, good for him. That's what we want. But you didn't have to fly in and do that. I think they probably could have figured it out. Because all we ended up with, and when we talked about this last week and the week before, and probably the week before that, there were all these people that were defecting. But it ended up just being Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. And that basically, they were the only holdouts because Mitch McConnell and President Trump basically dared the Republicans to block this 7-year campaign, this promise to repeal and replace Obamacare. So that's sort of the Reader's Digest version of what happened. And I was going to say, if people don't know what that is, it was the Cliff Notes version. I'm like, well, that's an old reference too. I don't know. I guess it's the Wikipedia of what happened. I would like to start with Chelsea. Your thoughts on the procedural vote, and are you able to... Do you take it seriously? Are you upset by it, or is it a little bit more of a mild annoyance?
Well, at first glance, it feels scary. Oh, the Republicans have agreed on something enough to pass something. So that's like, oh, shiznat, maybe they're going to do something. And then you realize that it's just to vote to debate it. And I still think that the fraction within the party of the moderates who are afraid to throw people off of Medicare is going to clash up against the really conservatives who want to just do away with the whole thing. The biggest problem that, and I can't take credit for this, my love noted this, that the scary part about this is actually the name that they gave this approach, the skinny repeal. Because that sounds appealing. I guess people like skinny, and skinny doesn't sound dangerous or ominous. It sounds like, just taking back a little bit of the parts that are bad. But when you look at the parts that they want to take out, the individual mandate, which will, cause insurance companies to run out of the market, because the only people that will want to stay in the market are people that need coverage, and young, healthy people will run for the hills, driving up costs and all that. That just little skinny repeal is going to do a whole lot of fat damage. So it's like less concerning because it's just about a debate, but then this skinny repeal has a good marketing campaign built into it. So that's a little concerning.
So it being the skinny repeal, is it named that because of the fact that the only people who will basically live are people who are skinny, because everybody else will lose their health care? Or do you think that that's the case? Or
basically, but not
am I
me.
reading too much into it?
Not me. I think I will lose well, I don't know. My mom might not let me lose it. But, I'm in the individual market, and premiums would go up.
Is it Cover California? I know we've talked about this before. Or do you have
I don't qualify for subsidies, so I'm just on my own.
Wow. All right.
And so I now pay $300 a month. When I first got my own plan, it was like $90 a month. And then
when was that you only paid $90 a month?
When I was 26, 27.
So just like a year or two ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
just like last week.
7, 8 years ago when I first went out on my own. And so the price has gone steadily up. And I think if they pass the skinny repeal, the individual market prices will go up. I think I saw 20 or 30%.
All right.
And 20 or 30% of $300
is a number that I don't have in my head. But by the way, Storage Yard Resident in the chat, thank you for always being there, immediately wanted to point out that Hitler got rid of the brown shirts in 1934.
Oh,
don't be so quick with the Hitler trivia.
right.
But it's a joke. We love Storage Yard Resident.
Yeah.
And thank you for being there. They're just jokes, the beginning part. That's all we have to worry about. Yeah, exactly. Add some rim shots to a Hitler speech, and just to see it. Maybe it downplays it a little bit. But Scott, ultimately, it seems like every week I ask you some variation of this. Ultimately, do you expect it's possible that there could be a repeal of Obamacare?
Well, I think we're closer than we were last week.
Right. Each week we get a little bit closer.
And I will give that to Mitch McConnell. He is a tenacious little son of a... yes, because he does it, and he will go for it no matter what, and he will not give up. I think Trump is a terrible negotiator, so I think it really has nothing to do with him and threatening people, which, by the way, when he blatantly lied, which we'll get into later, about how he helped all these senators to the finish line, it's really the other way around. A lot of those senators ran way ahead of him in their states. So he really has no factor at all in this. I would say Mitch McConnell is just tenacious and will keep going. The good news is, though, is that they've got a lot of different versions to go through. The first one tonight failed, 43 to 57, because that one needed 60 votes, so it came nowhere near there.
Right.
And I think some of those votes that have the 60-vote threshold, you'll see a lot more Republicans defecting from that, because they're not losing out on anything, because they know it's never going to pass. Because now, you need Democratic support, and you're not going to get it. So a lot of those people could fall off, and they don't have to worry about it. The ones that are going to be more concerning are the ones that are going to happen tomorrow that only require the bare minimum 50, plus one to be able to get through the finish line. And that's the one that will be more difficult, but the best chance Republicans have to be able to repeal.
Right.
So what
Democrats need are anything where the vote is, let's just say, Pence proof. As in today he was able to cast
it was 60 votes. Yeah. So anything that's 60 votes, which is anything that doesn't have to do, they're also doing the sneaky thing where they're going around from the exact law and they're dealing with budget stuff. And budget stuff you can get away with just doing with the bare majority. With anything that's going to be a foolproof law, and repealing certain amendments is going to have to be done with 60 votes, and you won't be able to do that without Democratic support. So you'll see a lot of those Republicans won't feel the pressure, so they'll be able to say, no, we're not voting for that. But the point is, it's going to get higher as we move along the next few days. So we're at 43 right now, yes, 57 no for the first vote tonight, and tomorrow we'll see what will happen and who's going to fall off and who's going to be on it. I was surprised that McCain flew back. And like I've said, too, if these Republicans are so set on their plan, then they should be on it themselves. And the fact is that they've exempted themselves from this plan. And not to say anything against John McCain, because I still think he, went through so much, and is a great person. But to come in and basically vote no, knowing that he has taxpayer subsidized health care, taxpayer money that flew him to DC for the vote, and he's going to come and basically say no and essentially strip people that have similar diseases that he has that are not going to be able to get that same treatment, but yet he's going to have that.
You know, Scott
and that's the problem.
Scott might know this because he knows everything about political history, but don't ask me why. But I was looking at the contract with America, the thing that
Newt Gingrich's
94,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. One of the tenets in there was that the laws that apply to the people will apply to Congress.
Right.
Well, that's probably why the contract with America was not officially ever signed. Basically, I mean, I know they got right,
yeah.
But where is it now?
But that's the biggest problem I have with that is if Republicans are so forceful on repealing this, but yet they're going to be on a separate plan. It doesn't look good. So you're going to go back to your constituents and say you're going to lose out on the Medicaid expansion. You're going to lose out potentially on good health insurance, but we'll go ahead and have our own that you guys will be paying for, by the way, as taxpayers. I don't know how they square that, but they don't really care, obviously, because they wouldn't be doing this if they did. It's all about the repeal to say to their extreme small base that they finally did this after 7 years.
Now, a few people that voted for this, this motion to actually debate it, Rand Paul, Dean Heller, Rob Portman, Shelley Moore Capito, they voted for this, but I think it's a bit of a stretch to imagine all four of them, if any of the four of them, actually voting for a repeal. I mean, Rand Paul has said he'll vote for a repeal, but only with the guarantee that it will never be replaced. Like, he just wants it gone. He just wants, repeal, but you better not replace if you want my vote.
And that goes back to what Chelsea was saying. Basically, you have too many factions still within the party. You've got the people like the Rand Pauls.
He seems to be the only one that's really out on that ledge, though. I don't feel like even Mike Lee's there. He's a guy that could have been. But
you have those type of people and the Ted Cruzes and those people. And then you have the other side where you have Rob Portman. And you have Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski and even Dean Heller, which I still think is going to be a struggle for him. He's just more concerned someone's going to primary him next year in Nevada, and he's going to be booted out before he can even run in the general.
Yeah.
That's what he's worried about more than anything else.
Well, as I was researching this, I thought that what happens next is best summarized by these comments. This is a quote. "Here we are 7 months into this year, and yet they've not passed this bill. Now they're not going to repeal and replace Obamacare. It's been around too long, and the American people have gotten accustomed to it. Governors have gotten accustomed to this Medicaid expansion, and so trying to pull it back is really not going to work." So what firebrand of the left, which crazy progressive, fiery liberal made these comments? Why, of course, John Boehner. Even he doesn't think that it's going to pass, and that basically is how I reacted. I was like, oh, but President Trump gets to claim a victory. He said earlier today, this is probably a tweet, "I'm very happy to announce that with 0 of the Democrats' votes, the motion to proceed on health care has moved past, and now we move forward toward truly great health care for the American people. We look forward to that. This was a big step."
Yeah, but yesterday he said that it was because of the Democrats they're obstructing that they couldn't get it passed, and he was trying to blame them. So it's very convenient.
Yeah, and he's more about kind of getting onto the next rally. You know, so it's just like, great, this is something that I can get applauded for. Trump said, also, "I want to thank Senator John McCain, a very brave man. He made a tough trip to get here, and believe it or not, it was only a scant 53 weeks ago." Donald Trump said of John McCain, "He's not a war hero." He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people who weren't captured. I don't know, that alone would have made me kind of stay there. But that's just, look, despite what he did in his life as a soldier, he's really a lifelong politician, John McCain. I mean, it's been so long, well past any of our lifetimes. And clearly the party was like, you got to get back for this. We get it. You're in the hospital, but we've got hospitals here. So I'd be interested to see what people in the chat think. Rand
Paul is trash.
Yeah, our Scott Brown, not Senator Scott Brown, equated health care as a right with enslaving doctors. Patients could demand service, thereby making them slaves. And Rand Paul, as his father, is a doctor. He's an eye doctor, but that's, by the way, that's still a doctor. Yeah. And you would think that he would have some...
Wait, patients could demand service.
I don't quite know what that means.
Equated healthcare as a right with enslaving doctors. So if we all have a right to healthcare, it means that we've
enslaved the doctors, and they have to provide services and can't possibly make any profit. So we should feel bad for the doctors.
So I
is
can
what
demand
Dr. Rand Paul
doctors says. Give me like a I was thinking of all sorts of crazy things that I want, like leg extensions or something like that to make me taller.
Wow. All right.
Actually, no. This is really was kind of a embarrassing story, but I was.
Well, now I really want to hear it.
I really did have to get a deviated septum fixed when I was in high school.
Really?
Yes. It caused me not to be able to breathe well in gymnastics. It was not good. And so I was going into the surgery to get it fixed. And while I was under whatever makes you loopy, whatever.
Whiskey.
Exactly. I don't know if it was my dad or somebody in the room was like, okay, she's ready to have the leg implants. And I thought for a second I was really there.
You were there
for
to get the
leg
leg. Oh,
extensions.
man.
And
Of
I
course,
was
'cause you're-
really excited.
How disappointed were you when you came to?
And you're like, no.
Oh well.
Well,
But so
exactly.
There's still hope on Trump care.
So the argument is that I would then just get to tell the doctor what to do.
Give me my leg extensions, and you'll pay for it out of
Yes.
your own pocket, Dr. Paul.
Why?
I'm-
I don't understand that. I would really like to understand.
Bernice
ask
Panders, not pandering to the chat room. Yeah,
That's
thank
funny.
you. Asks, that's funny. Thanks. Ask doctors in Sweden, France, Canada if they are slaves. No, they just because they don't perform some procedures because their nationalized healthcare creates problems. So people fly to the United States for certain procedures. At least I know that's the case in Canada. And any case, let's move on to something I didn't think I would ever say.
And actually,
Well, not that,
Wait,
but-
hold on. Sorry.
Yeah.
Right now, if you talk to most employees of any business,
Mm-hmm.
they feel like they're slaves, getting barely enough of a wage to get by. Increasingly difficult working circumstances. I think most people in general in the United States who are employees feel like they're slaves of big corporations or whoever it is that they work for.
And healthcare being under an employer is not really the right way to handle health insurance to
Right.
begin with. It should never happen that way.
Because if you can't afford it, you're stuck.
Right, and you have to
keeping
be
your job.
working at a job, and that now an employer is supposed to cover health insurance is kind of a very weird way of looking at how we take care of our
This
people.
has been something that has come up for, why it's ridiculous to attach
Mm-hmm.
healthcare to a job is because what if somebody wants to go try another job, but they've got a child that's got
Mm-hmm.
a medical condition and they can't wait the 3-6 months it takes for the new employer to put you on their plan.
Well-
or they're working a different job, or in that interim, they're now paying for it out of pocket, which is now way more money than they would under the subsidized plan of a large employer. Lots of issues, and of course, there's lots of issues with socialized medication. It's like, how can we come together to kind of blend the two to get the best of both worlds to where we still have choice, but we don't have to go broke and we don't have to go bankrupt to be able to take care of ourselves, and that we're free to know that we can do that and pursue what we want to pursue.
Under Chelsea's scenario, it sounds like the actual slave would be the employee who's a slave to the healthcare because you can't move the job. Anyway, I did want to move on. Something that I never thought I would say out loud or on the Trump Report. Poor Jeff Sessions.
I know, right? I agree.
Earlier
Really?
today,
Bad for him?
I do in a way because of the way he was thrown under by some. We'll get
Yeah,
to it.
well,
He had
let's get to
idea
it.
that the daggers were going to be turned
No.
to him eventually.
I don't think he's used to
No.
this kind of behavior in the Keebler elf tree that he crawled out of.
in the treehouse, they take better care
Earlier
of them.
today, President Trump said, quote, "Time will tell whether Jeff Sessions will remain as Attorney General." He specifically said, "I'm very disappointed with the Attorney General, but we will see what happens." And this was in a Rose Garden news conference alongside Lebanese Prime Minister Saad Hariri, maybe. Time will tell, time will tell. That seems like the place to make these sort of comments when you're having a joint press conference with the Prime Minister of Lebanon. This morning, he tweeted, not the Prime Minister of Lebanon, but President Trump, "Attorney General Jeff Sessions has taken a very," that's all caps, "weak position on Hillary Clinton crimes. Where are emails and DNC server and intel leak?" How does he still care about this? Like, I don't think anybody gave a shit about this anymore.
Right.
Like, I knew it was important to some people and, they clouded whether or not they've, I don't want to say clouded as like an editorial comment.
Because he doesn't want to talk about the Russian recusal?
Well, I don't know if it's just that, but I think that's a reason. And yes, that's like, let's bring that back up because that worked.
To bounce off his own issues.
Yeah, so he's just like, let's talk about this stuff again. And, this is really what Sessions should be focusing on. President Trump referenced a Politico report, which is interesting that he referenced something that Politico wrote. And another post that the Ukraine sought to sabotage his campaign. And this is, of course, his presidential campaign, and to boost Hillary Clinton. I almost said President Clinton. Sorry. Drexel would cry if he heard that. So where is the investigation, AG? I assume he means the Attorney General. There was more. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal earlier today, President Trump refused to say whether he was planning to fire Sessions, and he said he suspected that Sessions only endorsed him because Trump started getting massive crowds. I'm looking at it, he said, and he thought that Sessions' early support was, quote, not like a great loyal thing. So
we're watching a man break up.
Yeah, and we're watching a delusional person that's supposedly supposed to be president of the United States. It's absolutely asinine and embarrassing.
I think Sessions can somehow turn on Trump and take him down.
He could, but I don't think he has it in him. You know what I mean? I think he's just a little too meek for that. And I think he's very like, oh, my stars and garters about this.
His entire career is going to culminate in being fired from the AG
after only 6 months.
Well, here's the thing. I don't
think he's going to go down like that. I think we're going to see the elves resist.
The elf uprising
in force.
Yeah.
And, no,
well, just like we'll eventually see at the North Pole, yes, the elves might one day uprise. But the point that I was thinking of was that Trump somehow feels that he can't fire him. I think the advisors that he actually listens to, Jared Kushner, were just like, you can't. That's going to be too bad.
What happened with Jim Comey, he thought that this was a smart move.
He's probably like, well, I'm just going to bully him into resigning. He worked on The Apprentice. I got George Takei out this way. So maybe, actually, I don't think he was.
Did you hear him threaten that he was going to fire Tom Price?
Yeah.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that when we talk about.
And you hear about Rex Tillerson basically saying he's taking a leave of vacation after only 6 months as well.
Yeah, and that's a weird one too, the Rex Tillerson one, because they're not just saying he's going on vacation. He's gonna take a leave, and it's like, well, then who's gonna do his job?
You haven't even filled half of those ambassadorships yet, and a lot of other people in the State Department. You already had issues there. This is all disaster waiting to happen. It's embarrassing. I think. I wonder, because I've heard the other sneaky plan is what they're hoping is if they can ram healthcare through, then the senators take a recess. Then Jeff Sessions can be fired, and Trump can appoint a new attorney general without Senate approval during that recess period, which is why McConnell never went on break during, Obama's presidency, because he didn't want him to make recess appointments, which was a standard practice with presidents, by the way, to do this because they'd be gone a day or two. Now it's turned into another politicized weapon. So the thing is, they could get a new attorney general in there that wouldn't have to be up to Senate approval till like 2019. So that's a long time from now. So you could do a lot of damage. And if his whole plan is, which we keep hearing the rumors he wants to fire Mueller, again, that would be disastrous. But I just wonder how far Trump is trying to push it. I think he's just trying to push as far as he can and get away with whatever he can.
And then pardon himself.
And exactly. But like, how far would he go to when Republicans would finally say enough is enough? How far are they going to let this man do this kind of stuff and get away with it? Because at some point, I feel like if you're firing your AG, doing a recess appointment for a new one under the auspices of potentially firing the special prosecutor that's looking into your issues with the Russia connection, when are Republicans going to say enough is enough and let him continue with this crazy behavior? Because he is crazy. This behavior is not appropriate.
Do you
at
think
this point.
any Republicans will jump to become a Democrat?
Like sort of like the Specter did back in 2006 in Pennsylvania and everything, but I don't know what's going to happen. You think about level-headed people like the Susan Collins that's in a purple state that really leans blue, which she finally like, I'm going to be Democrat because Olympia Snowe left. The other fellow Republican senator in Maine because she had enough. But I wonder what is going to be that breaking point for Republicans to say this is unacceptable. He is not able to do this anymore. What is it going to take?
I think when basically the Senate GOP feels like his behavior gets in the way of them doing what
Right.
they're trying to do, and that hasn't happened yet.
No.
You know, it's sort of like it's an annoying buzz in the background while you're trying to mow the lawn, but you can still get it done, or get it done well enough where it's like, yeah, most of the grass is gone, it's fine. So I don't think we've seen that point. I mean, clearly we haven't, because you
No.
only have a few Republicans that have broken ranks at any point and really gone out. Against
it's
President
just
Trump.
scary. I mean, to see the turnover in this administration already, to see what's going on, and then to be able to know that he threatens people and, discusses about pardoning himself, and he discusses about, firing Mueller and leaving his attorney general just flopping out there in the breeze like that is horrible. I mean, it's terrible. It really is.
I got a really bad visual when you said that.
His most loyal, ardent supporter, and the AG that's doing basically what he wants with this nationalistic,
But the one thing
cracking
that he
down on
did-
drugs, illegal immigrants, and now because of that, because
Because
of the
he
recusal,
recused himself on Russia, and
and then he thinks and it makes him somehow look better. I mean, I just don't get it. I don't understand how people can continuously back up this person, continually back up Trump, and
Because they've gone too far down and they're really embarrassed to admit that they have been deceived. I don't know.
it's mind-boggling to me. I just don't understand how they can let someone get away with stuff like that, and he's not even doing a great job.
Well, talking about turnover within the administration, it was indeed the theme for this episode, the title at least. This was not surprising, but it was hugely disappointing for comedians and lovers of comedy. Sean Spicer resigned last week, and he resigned Friday after telling President Trump that he vehemently disagreed with his appointment of Anthony Scaramucci, which is fun to say, a New York financier who will be his new communications director. Sean Spicer believed that Scaramucci's hiring would add to the confusion and uncertainty already engulfing the White House, so he did not want to stay on, so now Sarah Huckabee Sanders is press secretary. I'm not surprised that Spicer resigned. I'm surprised that this is why he did it, and that he did it now. Maybe it was, I don't know, Chelsea, do you think it was just his excuse?
Because his boss was batshit crazy was not an appropriate reason to
right.
quit. So he had to.
No, but and the
Get
contempt he
mad.
had
Took
for
that
the
long.
media and the just the poor job
Do you
performance.
think he's going to go to Fox?
Yes, I know. I'm like waiting for the countdown and the book. When is the book going to be?
It
The
depends,
book deal.
I mean, if Fox is interested in him, sure, but maybe Alex Jones would like to have him on his network. I mean, I think Fox was a lot more critical of Sean Spicer, and I think he'd be a great fit over at InfoWars. So but I'm pretty sure he's probably not going to do anything for a little while. But
He's going to have
Scott,
to get reacquainted with reality.
well, I don't know. He's been in Washington a long time.
He has been. He's
Regardless
not-
of his politics.
Yeah, he's-
I think if you spend that much time there, it's kind of impossible.
Right.
Scott, when you heard that he resigned and then found out why, were you surprised again at the reason? Not so much that
No,
he
I was
wanted to
surprised at the
leave.
reason. It was sort of a long time coming. I still am waiting for when Kellyanne Conway's going to go over the edge there, but she's been tweeting a lot again lately. She was sort of not doing that for a while, and so I've had to get back to trolling her again. So I wonder when she'll be out.
Somebody's gotta do it.
Exactly. I wonder when she'll be out, because we kept saying it would happen. I think it was weird. It felt like a weird excuse to finally get him out. It
was just sort of
odd.
waiting for the right
Well,
moment.
isn't
It was
the
just an
truth
odd
that
reason.
He just had to name any reason, because the reality is he was about to be fired, and so his resignation was just a way to save face.
Right,
Yeah,
that's
it's
what I'm
the
saying.
old-
But it was a weird way to, like you said, it was
Yeah.
sort of a weird reason. Of all the litany of reasons he could have given, that was an odd one.
R. Scott Brown in the chat can't wait for Spicer's tell-all book. He's going to write it in a new font, which resembles his briefing style, stammering non sequitur. Sorry, the chat moved right in the middle of me
Yeah.
reading it, and I kind of felt like it was going to happen. Portable Player says Alex Jones won't be able to afford Sean Spicer. You should take a look and see how much money Alex Jones brings in.
that-
And I was also going to say,
True?
Sean Spicer
What?
would not make much money when you're
Oy.
working in government. You make
Yeah, that's
100
true.
What,
yeah.
174,000 a year.
And Fox also does not pay very well. So you see, it's all about who's got money. So it'll be interesting to see, though. But I don't think we're going to see spicy for a little while. So now we've got Scaramucci here in our lives, and of course, every time that I hear his name, I think about Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen.
I do too. I always sing it in the back of my head.
Yeah,
like...
so I'm sure we'll have an excuse to use that as a title.
Or he's like a Bond villain, like Scaramanga.
Yeah,
he's like the new Bond villain.
We will find out if he can indeed do the Fandango. So the New York Times described Scaramucci, because I'm going to admit I didn't know that much about him, and by not much I mean nothing. They described him as a smooth-talking, Long Island-bred former hedge fund manager who is currently the senior vice president and chief strategy officer at the Export-Import Bank, which he joined just last month.
It looks like the swamp has taken over the communications.
Right.
Well,
lots of draining there.
The New York Times also said that his rapport with the president establishes a new power center in a building already bristling with rivalry. And I put that down because I loved the turn of phrase, bristling with rivalry. Yeah, I guess they got some good writers over there at that newspaper. I know that rag, I understand.
Oh, yeah, fake.
It's all, this is all fake news. None of this is true. So this is something I referenced at the top of the show. He, I think it was today, he said he was going to fire everybody if he needs to stop the White House links. Also the White House leaks. Assistant Press Secretary Michael Short did Sean Spicer, and he resigned before he could be fired. So I guess he's here to stop the leaks. And everything that I read seemed to give the idea that, at least to Trump, or maybe just to Scaramucci, that the leaks are people who are more loyal to Reince Priebus than they are to Trump. I guess, if that's what they think. But, Scott, I'll start with you. What do you think about this decision, about having Scaramucci basically...
Well, they've said, I've also heard the rumors that basically this is a stepping stone for him to take Priebus's job as well, and this is an easy way to kind of get him in the door. He's an interesting character because he's not full-on conservative. He's more like what you would have thought Trump would be out in the real world. He's donated a lot to Republicans and Democrats alike, including President Obama in the 2008 campaign.
Let me pause that for a second and point out there are some old tweets of his that have come to light saying Republicans should support gay marriage and gay rights. He essentially endorsed Hillary Clinton, saying how she should run. He said Jeff Sessions is a stand-up guy, but the most egregious thing he tweeted, this was pointed out by the website Uprocks, I am not taking credit for this, but he did tweet about how amazing the Entourage movie was. So I don't know about any of that stuff, but I hear that, and I'm pretty sure we can't trust him.
No,
anyway,
exactly.
So, but to your point,
and to Hillary Clinton's 2006 New York re-election campaign, which also Trump did as well, which he claimed that was just doing business. So he brings a different. He's not the ultra conservative person that's coming in, or a longtime GOP operative. But that said, he also is, like Trump, doesn't have a ton of government experience. This is not a job that he's had before. He doesn't come from communications shop background or anything. So it's an interesting choice. But I guess everything that Trump does is a little bit out of the ordinary. I just wonder, again, how long is he going to last? They had a funny thing where they were doing the same, where he was doing the same body language as Trump, and they did a whole split screen of that, and that was pretty funny to see that, the same like gestures with the hands and the. It was pretty funny of like trying to kind of mimic your boss. But I do wonder how long he's going to be around, and I don't think being able to find the leakers is going to solve anything, because I think
the leaks will keep coming.
They will. There's a lot there, and
well, I mean,
there's a lot of entrenched government people that do not like Trump at all.
Well, there are a lot of people
that
are playing a much longer game than Trump is, because they know that they would like to have a career beyond 2020, or for storage yard resident, beyond 2024. I just just have to put it out there.
Yeah, they're
it's
the
the
long
same
game.
thinking. You got to play the long game, and you're like, you don't want to be like, oh yeah, that guy was the real. That guy or girl was a real lapdog to President Trump, So it's like, oh yeah, he gave really good insight into what was going on. I don't know, but Shareable Texas has a point that I think Chelsea might appreciate. 12 Goldman Sachs members now in the cabinet. Does that sound about accurate, Chelsea?
I thought you were going to say, did Chelsea get
younger?
Since
yeah,
that's comment
I thought you were going to say.
You know, I actually was reading the one that was on the issues, but I think you did get younger since last show because you weren't here last show. So you went somewhere for some kind of rejuvenation therapy.
Well, actually, that's not far from the truth because after this crazy DC week, came back and did a couple of weeks late birthday spa getaway. You know.
Good for you.
For your 26th birthday?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. My 26th birthday. Yes.
Well, because we sort of referenced it, let's talk a little bit about your time in D.C. We only have a few minutes for it because I have a couple big issues I want to get to. But tell us, ever so briefly, just that you were there and give us as much information as you can about what you were doing.
Yeah, thanks for that because it's been this like, to say too much and not enough and to sound all, you know, shady and guarded. I just can't speak on behalf of the group that I went with.
Right, but you can say they're concerned citizens. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. And went in February, no, when did we go? April, to see how we could help because one of the people in the group is a former Senate staffer. So we were able to have unbelievable meetings last time. We're able to help with a specific skill set that this group has. And then we've been doing follow-up and then going back for more meetings. We've got another meeting with Senator Sanders.
And his wife Jane, we've talked about this, but you're essentially BFFs now, right? I mean, do you guys text at night, like just to, you know, just some girl talk, like, hey, what's going on?
And you know what? I'll try.
Emojis.
You know, she is so nice that if I did ask her some like random question, like woman to woman, something I can make, I'm 99% sure that she would answer with like the best advice that she could think of.
I think that I think it's a beautiful thing because you know what you and Jane have in common? Your love of Bernie.
That's true. I mean, she really. I don't know if I've ever met somebody who actually loves people as much as she does. I think Bernie cares a lot about people, but Jane would talk to anybody and everybody, and she just unbelievable love and patience with people. But anyways, we did have a couple of other fun new meetings. I think there was a picture in there of Adam Schiff, who is my rep, Kamala Harris's team, and went back to our buddies at the DNC.
And so you had all these meetings. Do you feel like you were able to bring to light some issues that maybe weren't being talked about and make some impact for good?
Yeah, I have been stunned the whole time that we've been doing this about how receptive the party is to ideas, thoughts, you know, asking, oh, sure, that kind of help sounds good. How can you help us? I mean, and at first I thought maybe it's just lip service.
Right.
But the follow through has proven otherwise. And so it gives me some hope that this party can move in a healthier direction. And it would be great to be a part of that. But I'm sure there are lots of other groups that are throwing their, I don't know, hat in, their skills in to try and help revive the vitality of this party.
It could definitely use an injection of something. I don't know what it is. Probably fresh faces would probably go a long way. Yeah. But what do I know? I don't even know how to vote.
But what I always say to people, though, is, you know, a lot of people are like, well, they're so out in the wilderness right now, they don't have a coherent message. All I have to say is look back to the Republicans in 2009. And you had a supermajority of the Democrats in the Senate. You know, the Democrats had a lot more and bigger, wider margins in 2009 than the Republicans do now. So it does happen. It's cyclical, but it's not the worst thing in the world. And I know that you see a lot of people say, oh, that's it for the Democrats. They're done forever. No, the Republicans have reached their peak. And yes, there's a lot of work that Democrats have to do to reach, you know, those voters in especially a lot of those swing states, but also in a lot of those more red states. But you just have to look back to 2009. It wasn't that long ago. And the Republicans were sitting in an actually worse position, and they regrouped and came back in 10. And that's the same thing that Democrats have the opportunity to do next year as well. And start that process of finding their way back. But they do have to get some younger faces, and they do have to get people with good messaging, and it's definitely possible. So I'm excited that now we have a great opportunity for some new exciting
We shall
directions to go
rise
in
from the ashes.
next year and into
And
20.
there are a lot of ashes to rise from. So let's get back to something that we referenced earlier, which was President Trump spoke at the Jamboree of the Boy Scouts of America, which is held every 4 years. There were about, I think, 35,000 scouts between the ages of 12 to 18 who President Trump thanked for voting for him, which is interesting. You know, some of them could very well have. I'm just pointing out that they didn't vote for anyone because they were underage. But anyway, and it's held in Beaver, West Virginia. I only mention it because it made me laugh. Monday, President Trump, this was yesterday, he starts off by saying, "Who the hell wants to speak about politics?" to the Boy Scouts of America. And he went on to rail against President Obama, Hillary Clinton, fake news, and the cesspool of politics. But the specific point we made earlier, Tom Price was there, and he said, "Tom, are you going to get the votes? If not, you're fired." And it was a laugh line, but I don't know if Tom Price was laughing because I don't know, it was really a joke.
No.
Chelsea, I don't imagine you sat and watched the speech to the Boy Scouts of America, but
I heard clips.
yeah, as you've heard clips and read about it, what are your thoughts on President Trump speaking to the impressionable youth of America?
Oh, yeah. I actually forgot the fact that they were impressionable youth. I mean,
some of them are 12.
I think I'm a little bit different than Scott in that I don't get embarrassed anymore because it doesn't. I don't. Maybe I've lost my capacity for embarrassment. I mean, maybe this is a good thing. I can now run naked in the streets and not care. Not.
Terrible Texas, don't say it. All right.
But there's not a lot that embarrasses me, I guess, anymore. It's almost laughable. I mean, I'm almost like, oh gosh, am I becoming so jaded and deranged that I think that some of this is funny, where he's like, you know who wasn't invited here or who didn't come here? Obama and whatever, and you know, he's the only one who's not actually not a member of the Boy Scouts.
Right. Well,
Younger.
President Trump had never been a Boy Scout, but President Obama had. Which it's interesting because I didn't know they had the Boy Scouts in Kenya. It's just a joke. But they probably do, by the way.
I can't get that worked up about it, and you know, those poor kids. I mean, from what I hear, you know, the Boy Scouts becoming more and more, you know, socially conservative. I think those kids were probably up against a lot to begin with. I mean, I hope that they're still, you know, teaching these kids some, you know, valuable skills and building up their
there are great
self-esteem.
values that you can get out of being in the Scouts. My brother was a Boy Scout. I was out after Cub Scouts just because it didn't seem that fun to me. Also, I was really bad at tying knots, like really, really bad. So, but I mean, I've known people that have gone all the way to Eagle Scout. Rick Perry is... Think what you will about Rick Perry, but you know, he did become governor, and look at this, he's the head of the EPA now. So that is his job, right? It sounded so crazy when he said it out loud. I'm like,
no, he's energy.
Yeah, but
EPA is
all right, but it's still crazy.
Yes, still crazy.
It sounded wrong, but not in the same way. But anyway, and I think that, you know, you can get some good things out of being in the Scouts, and the organization in and of itself did say that, you know, they always invite the president. They always invite the sitting president. And he said yes, they didn't endorse him or his message. And they did get some guidelines out to the Scouts that there were some things from the campaign chants that would be inappropriate to say. Lock her up, build the wall, you know, because...
Grab her by the...
I don't think that was in the memo, but that's a great point. Yeah. Grab her by the brownies, you know, I mean, whatever it is. Reportedly there were some boos, there were some cheers, it was a mix. And there were some parents
concerned about the news reporting the proper crowd size. I mean, it just can't even.
Well, I mean, to him, you know, if you joke about it, then it kind of becomes true. Right. If you're just like, well, the media is just going to say there's 200 people here.
In his delusional state, you know, I guess we should know what to expect from him now. He's delusional. He can't let the election go because he can't deal with the fact that he lost by millions. And now his new tactic is to say, oh, well, it was a lot harder to win the Electoral College than it is to win the popular vote. That's his new standard. But again, I'm saying it should be embarrassing for us as a country to have a president go to a nonpartisan event with children and turn it into a political rally and turn it into an absolute embarrassment. Like, he just has continuously set the standard so low.
We're gonna do something really embarrassing, like karaoke or something.
I love karaoke.
Oh, I would be embarrassed.
No, but I'm saying, as far as a president at a nonpartisan event, he cannot seem to let the election go, and bringing that kind of stuff up to. Well,
it's the only thing he's accomplished.
It's true, but it was.
What else is he going to talk about?
It was mortifying. He should have been ashamed. Of course, he has no feelings of shame. He clearly doesn't have any feelings of regret or apologies or anything else. But what I've started to notice in these past couple of weeks is, like, he is really delusional, and it's like beyond to what it was before. I thought maybe
you just noticed.
Well, no, I thought there was a time period where maybe he's trying to get his supporters as base to believe this stuff if he says enough times. But now I'm starting to feel like he's
well, I was going to say,
he's not mentally stable.
That's why he comes off as authentic, even though he's lying. It's because he really believes it.
That's what I say. The cardinal sin of a politician is to believe your own bullshit. You have to know that it's bullshit to make it work. But now I think he does really think that he had the biggest crowd ever on Inauguration Day. And, you know, so on and so forth.
But he just, you know, talking about his predecessor negatively is something that was never done before, regardless of Republican or Democrat. There was always a certain level of respect. He's ended that.
To clarify, there was a certain level of respect. And the way that you would criticize the person before you would be basically, you know, President Obama sort of saying what he was saddled with in terms of an economy, you know. And there was a way to do that, not like not George Bush ruined everything.
Which
during the campaign, of course, he said that. But
but when as a president, there's a certain level of respect that you have for your former presidents, regardless of party, and it's you know, something that George W. Bush did when Bill Clinton had left and he took office, you know, and there's a period of time where you don't, you know, go on about your predecessor. Same thing with going on about the Hillary Clinton thing. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. It's projection. But it's getting to the point now where it's, like I said, I don't know how much longer Republicans are going to put up with his craziness. It's until they want to sink the whole Republican ship next year in 20. I mean, maybe that's their goal. I mean, I keep thinking, I'm like, is he really in there to destroy the Republican Party? Like, I do really start to question it. I'm like, what is his whole point? Is it like because he's so batshit out there? I just don't get it.
So there's still a chance in your mind that he's some kind of Manchurian candidate, and the idea is that at some point he's going to see the White Queen, and then it's just Well,
I'm still debating if he's going to be there for full term. I still don't think that's going to happen. But
full term is in 4 years or 8 years?
Oh, 4. Terms are by 4 years. You have to be elected every 4 years.
I only said that because I wanted to upset you. We only have a couple minutes left, so I do want to move on about the ongoing Jared Kushner Russia investigation. Chelsea, as we hear about this, it seems like he's saying all the right things where, you know, there was a lot of excitement about these hearings. And I think that, you know, there were some questionable meetings and dealings and all that. It doesn't seem like anything's outside of the law, but maybe you hear this with a different set of ears than I do. Do you feel like there's any smoke where there's this fire, or the reverse of that fire where there's this smoke around Jared Kushner?
Yeah, just go back to the beginning when this Russia talk first happened and everybody was denying that there was any communication of any kind. Now the story is, oh, oops, there was, but it just, you know, it wasn't about anything bad, anything wrong.
I was just trying to get borscht recipes.
So
talking vodka.
So I mean, he's confirmed that all the earlier denials were lies. In a very inarticulate way. I was surprised by how monotone my name is Jared Kushner.
And it's like he was reading a book report.
The senior advisor to President Trump. I do everything from solving Middle East peace crisis to, I don't know, I lost my train of thought. But it just, this is the first time that I've heard him speak, and it was a very unimpressive presence.
That's why he doesn't speak a lot, because I think that's a lot of the things people make fun of him. Say, oh, he sounds like a 12-year-old boy. He seems like he's
more of a behind-the-scenes guy, you know, and he's kind of been thrust onto this just because I don't want to run out of time. Scott, what do you think about
Well, it kind of reminded me of Bill Clinton's admission. That's all I could think about when I heard him go out and do that speech. It was like, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. That's all in the back of my mind I heard when I heard him make this comment.
And it depends on what your definition of is.
But it just didn't ring true to me. We already know that he's had to revise a lot of his forms as far as what he's been involved with in his business dealings. Like everyone else, there always seems to be more that comes up out of the surface here. So I don't believe it. And, you know, they had behind closed doors with the Senate hearing. It wasn't even out for the public. So if it was really that cut and dry and innocent, you wouldn't have it behind closed doors so you could discuss things. I know there's some classified information, but realistically they could have had an open session. And so you're already thinking, what other things are they hiding? And of course, going back to Donald Trump not releasing the tax forms, there's a lot of stuff going on, and we know Jared Kushner and his family has been involved with a lot of sketchy business practices over the years. So no, not surprising at all. So that's why I go back to the Bill Clinton thing. It just sounds like an easy thing to say to people, but when you're under oath, it's a whole other story. And
it's true. I mean, you know, to the final point to Chelsea's comment about the previous lies, those weren't under oath. So now is when you really have to be like, okay, but I'm not lying now because I'm taking it serious. Anyway, we are out of time, tragically. Please let us know your thoughts about any and all the topics here. You can comment on the YouTube chat or at Trump Report ABTV. And if you're listening on iTunes, rate, comment, give us some stars. I think 5 is the most you can give, so try and give us 6. We'll be back live next Tuesday. That'll be August 1st, 7 p.m. Pacific right here. We'll have a guest here in studio, KNBC TV legal analyst Royal Oaks, a friend of mine from my radio days. It'll be nice to have him here. And be sure to follow Scott Moore at SMan80, Chelsea Galicia at Chelsea Galicia. I'm Christian Bladt at Christian DMZ. Happy 2nd birthday to my son Felix tomorrow. Aww. And we will see you next Tuesday. Thanks, everyone.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.